For those of you who are somewhat new to this community, I want to make sure that you know that whatever you were able to put in the plate just now, that's called our designated offertory. And this church is so remarkable. Every single month, they choose a local community effort or initiative, a social justice recipient to receive the entirety of that plate. And let me tell you, in the 2 years that I have been with you, my breath has been taken away by the amount that is given every month, which usually is between $700 and $1,500 every month. You are remarkable. It's something to be really proud of. So many of you have also come to know about me in these first 2 years together, that I do believe in the power of prayer. I do. It's a daily spiritual practice that not only keeps me sane, but it returns me to myself. Maybe that's where the sanity comes from, a return to myself. When my mind is moving 1,000,000 miles an hour and there is so much to do, when my nervous system is on 10, when I am feeling outrage at the state of the world, or I am exhausted, or feeling hopeless, or frightened, what is to come, or blaming. Prayer is the only thing I know of that puts my mind and my heart and my body in touch with a bigger picture. That's how I would describe it, at least today. Kind of like when you are sweating it out on a crowded and loud and ruckus dance floor. Maybe I've got some previous dancers in the house here. And you remove yourself for a moment and get up on the balcony maybe and catch your breath and have some water. And you're able to take in where you are and who you're with and how many people are even dancing and where the music's coming from and what time it is, right? Prayer for me is that balcony view. And most often the prayer that I pray comes from Ezekiel in the Hebrew Bible. I've shared it with you before. God says to the prophet Ezekiel, who's just spinning his wheels, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And in my prayers, I simply ask God to do this for me. Please, God, don't let me go stony. Don't let my anger or anxiety or exhaustion turn me stony. Return my heart to itself, I pray, every day, sometimes many, many times. Simply, when my heart is returned to itself, it's not stony, I would say, I am able to be guided by and feel love for myself. Oh, I need that. And for my fellows. Most of the time, truthfully, most of the time, I sleep well and am a fairly calm and grounded person, thanks to this prayer. And a lot of therapy with you, Holly. The word love, to me, is not unlike the word God. It's hard to define. It means different things to different people. Universalists We're the first to equate those two words as one and the same. God is love. But just like the word God, the word love can be bandied about irresponsibly. It can. It can be adhered to sloppily and lazily or forgotten altogether. It can be recited or received like a poorly defined, flimsy platitude, right? Or a loosey-goosey concept that we are unaccountable to or choose to live by. Here's one for me: only when it feels comfortable or convenient. I believe we as human beings are collectively right now feeling the adverse effects of this kind of casual and selective love. Many of us are not getting the love we need, nor have we ever. And many of us are not giving the love we have to give. Adrienne Marie Brown says it so beautifully, right? If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. Perhaps, she says, humans' core function is to love. Is love. Social scientist Brené Brown says that after collecting thousands of stories, she is willing to call this a fact, and she is a scientist. Rarely do they use the word fact. She is willing to call this a fact: a deep sense of love and belonging. Those are interchangeable words. Love and belonging is an irreducible human need from the moment we're born until the day we die. When those needs aren't met, we don't function as we're meant to. We break. We fall apart. We numb. We ache. We hurt others. We get sick. Those are her words. So my question to you today is the same question that our larger faith is now asking itself and us. What would it look like, and who would we be as Unitarian Universalists if the ethic of love, both given and received, was at the center of everything? Just going to let that question sit there. What if? What would it look like if the ethic of love was at the center of everything? Everything. This past June, history was made in our faith in two ways. We elected Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, a queer, multiracial, Afro-Latin, first-generation daughter of immigrants from Chile and Panama, to be our faith's president. And she will serve us for the next 6 years. And I'm going to say more about her in a moment. And second, we voted, 4,000 plus Unitarian Universalists voted to spend the next year tightening up a few revisions on Article 2 of our faith's bylaws. And before you zone out because I said articles and bylaws, this section is where our principles and our sources are. The purpose, it's where it's articulated, right? And currently, those 7 principles and 6 sources are our guideposts for how we live, what we believe, why we do all that we do. It's printed on the back of your orders of service. Take it with you. Because we call this church a Unitarian-Universalist church and pay member dues to the UUA and covenant as friends and members to affirm and promote these 7 principles and 6 sources, this is really important, y'all. Yeah. In 2017, UUs began talking about amending this Article 2 section because the 8th principle had been written and proposed after years of deep, hard work. A principle that explicitly addressed racism and oppression and called us to accountably work to dismantle these systems within our institutions and ourselves and beyond, okay? And hundreds of congregations in the past 6 years have made the decision with the UUA's blessing, know that, to adopt it into our own bylaws, not to wait on the UUA. They knew they were going to need a longer process because they knew we needed to immediately start putting this principle into action. Lives were on the line, right? This church, my friends, gets to be so proud of this. We were one of these congregations. We unanimously voted to adopt the 8th principle in June of 2022. There are 1,034 UU congregations in the United States, and to date, as of this morning, 274 have adopted the 8th principle. I'm proud of us. Amid a pandemic and a new minister and change and what the heck, y'all adopted the 8th principle among a few hundred others? Wow. And you were celebrated at General Assembly, by the way, and you continue to be. And in the meantime, since 2017, the UUA board committed to establishing this Article 2 study commission, right? And it's spent these years working with task forces and holding grassroots conversations and surveys and studies, proposing their revisions based on these conversations, and also asking for 1 more year, which is what they did, to make a few more tweaks at this past General Assembly, and this was overwhelmingly approved. Just for context, friends, this change to Article 2 is not the first revision. Let me make that more clear. Our current principles and sources, they were adopted in 1985. They were slightly revised in 1995. And before 1985, we had 6 different principles established in 1961, and another set of purposes from 1936, and before then, a set from 1887, which if you read, you would say, who are these people? How could they possibly be Unitarians or Universalists? And on and on and on, down the history of Universalism and Unitarianism as they branched off with all different creeds and affirmations and principles and purposes. I share this with you simply to remind us all that we as a faith and a religion are ever changing. And that, my friends, is what makes us so utterly wonderful. So let's get back to where we are now. Here we are. There are some revisions that need to happen to what will be our newly articulated Unitarian Universalist promise and purpose. But the foundation of what this Article 2 Commission proposed will remain. Okay? Here it is. Love is the power that holds us together, and it is at the center of our shared beliefs and values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values and ethics through the spiritual discipline of love. And they've created this kind of dynamic image that looks like a flower or a waves or arms kind of stretching out from the center, where we find in the center the word love and a chalice. And so it's surrounded by other words, values, that pointedly show us how to live this love, put it into action. A lot of totes at GA. Love is an action word. Love is an action word. All right. Here are the values, right? Interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, justice. And each of those have descriptors for what that is, what that means to us, right? And as one of my colleagues, Reverend Peggy Clark, named, love is at its center. The heartbeat, the life-giving force that animates all these other values. The spiritual discipline. And in this new articulation, she writes, of who we are, we're saying that love is our organizing principle, and from love, or because of love, we live big and hopeful, beautiful lives, and we promote choices that accountably hold each of us up and dismantle racism and systems of oppression and heals our planet and supports expansiveness and inclusion and right relationship and spiritual seeking and life in all its full and rich dimensions. Love. And friends, we're going to do more learning around this year so that this congregation will be prepared for this vote, as well as prepared for what it means to this community and our own spiritual lives and our good work in the world and with one another. I was so inspired by the history making that I got to be a part of at General Assembly. So inspired by this that I made the theme of this church year love. So if you have something to say or teach or play or paint about it, please bring it to us. I am going to be working hard to consider for myself as a devout, obnoxious Unitarian-Universalist what this means when I consider love as my guiding ethic, my guiding theology, and my commitment to work for collective liberation. I will be doing that, and it's your responsibility, my dear church family, to commit to the responsibility and considerations around this as well. And I hope we can do this together. I have so much to learn from you. And as I always say, we are in this together. But I want to return to the other big piece of history making at GA, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, whose election as our UUA president was in perfect step and synchronicity with our 8th principle adoption and its powerful rippling effect on our Article 2 revisions, and this our ethic of love. When she was asked what she would bring to her role, her response was this: often as Unitarian Universalists, we shy away from theological engagement, she says. We shy away from it in the work of justice and in the work of welcome, that's our theme this month, and in the work of right relationship with one another. And she said that she brings an understanding of how we can bridge collective wholeness and worth with radical, sacred, theologically hefty love. So we're going to learn a lot from this remarkable woman. I can't wait. She told us that she wants Unitarian Universalism, I loved this, to be a difficult faith and a difficult name. A faith with a promise of home and wholeness and dignity and community care that can't be swept away or made comfortable or easy to digest, she said, that makes us work for it and can't and won't rest when our global siblings are suffering, or our earth is weeping, or people who have been historically marginalized, yes, even in our midst, tell us they're hurting. It should be hard. She said that we are not pledging as you used to follow one teacher or leader or rhetoric or creed. We are pledging to follow the work of faithfulness itself, a faith that teaches us to be risk takers, justice promoters, and love embracers every minute of every day. Every minute of every day. That is what this religion is all about. And this is what she calls an ethic of love. And she told us that what she brings to us is the hope and call around how to be ourselves envoys of love. So, I hope that you will take some time this beautiful Sunday afternoon or evening to put her name into Google, go to her website, listen to her talks and sermons, get to know her, and get to know what Unitarian Universalism's hope and promise is for today and tomorrow, and let it move you and change you and challenge you and inspire you. It certainly has me. It certainly has me. I want you to spend some time also with this question. I asked it earlier, but I'm going to deepen it a bit. What would it look like if love was at the center of everything? What if love was the organizing principle of every committee meeting, every email you sent, every conversation you have, every decision you make? What if love, can you imagine if love was the organizing principle at your child's school? Or at our city or state government? Can you imagine? Yeah. Ugh. What would it look like if, when making decisions, Congress asked themselves what the most loving choice would be? You laugh, but don't lose hope, my dear dreamers. Imagine. Isn't that what we're fighting for? What if corporations prioritize love over profit? What if love was the driving force, the central principle of every institution, every organization, and of our lives? What would happen if we put love at the center of everything? Because, my friends, you are the great healers of this world, and you have a lot to teach this world. What a witness we would become in the world if love was truly at each of our centers. I have this to work on. This should feel hard and sometimes easy, painful and sometimes just wonderful, aspirational and possible. I am a prisoner of hope. Those are Dr. Cornel West's words. And I'm going to die a prisoner of hope. It is something to work for, this ethic of love, as Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt teaches us, and I'm ready to jump in. You know, there are a lot of prayer practices that help with this, and I hope that you'll reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about some of them, or tell me if you have one for yourself. Maybe you can teach us about it. Much is unknown, my friends. And these are uneasy times. And I don't need to tell you that there is so much love here. There's so much love here right now. You've got it to give. And for those of you who desperately need it, oh, you just say the word. Just say the word. I love you. We've got this. And amen.